The world of wading gear isn't exactly easy to navigate. Between all the wader options, the billion pairs of boots on the market, and the insane price differences between all of them, it's tough to know if you're actually going to get something that performs the way you need it to. Now, I've been fly fishing for over 20 years, and I've spent the last decade reviewing gear for fly fishing magazines, and here's my 2 cents on this dilemma. It is way more important to shop for your wading gear based on what you want that gear to do than it is to just base it all on price. And today on Untangled, I'm going to explain that concept in more detail. I'll give you some recommendations of the gear that we love and trust here at VFC, but most importantly, I'm going to give you the tools you need to pick the gear that is going to work for you. This is Untangled, fly fishing for everyone, presented by Ventures Fly Co. Hey everybody, welcome to it. This is Untangled, and I am your host, Spencer Durant. If you are watching the video podcast today, congratulations, and not just because you get to see my beautiful face. No, you're getting a sneak peek of the brand new studio, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about wading gear. And I'm just going to give you the short of it right here, and then we're going to continue to dissect it and dig into the meat as the show progresses. And first thing I want to say, again, this is the short of it. There is no right or perfect or best set of waders and boots for everybody. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys, well, hey, this is what I use, so it's going to be perfect for you, whether you fish and live in the Rockies, or you're in the Driftless, or you're in the Appalachians. That's just not there. Those are three different locations, different circumstances. They all demand different things. And then we're not all going to be fishing the same way either. Okay. So the way that you fish, where you're fishing, all that factors into what wading gear you should buy way more than just recommendations. Now, recommendations from people who fish similarly to you can be very helpful. And I do recommend looking for those kind of recommendations, and I'll make my own recommendations later on in the show based on, here's what I do, here's the kind of people it would work for. But really what you need to be focused on when you're buying boots and waders is you need to focus on how they fit you and what they were designed to do. Those should be at the absolute top of your list, because you can find stuff that's going to fit you well and that's designed for what you're trying to do at almost every price point. The really bargain stuff, it might be kind of hard to find, but there's a lot of affordable wader options on the market, and there's going to be stuff that fits what you need at just about any price point. I'm not trying to tell you to throw price completely out the window, but I wouldn't worry so much about price right now. I would focus way more on fit and what they were designed to do. Because if you base your entire wading gear search just on price, I think you're going to end up being disappointed in some way, because you're either going to go too cheap, say, okay, well, I'm just going to get the cheapest stuff, and then you're going to be disappointed because it's going to wear out quickly, it's going to fall apart, it's not going to fit well maybe, or you're going to say, okay, this is the most expensive stuff on the market, so it has to be the best, I'm going to buy it, and then you're going to be kind of disappointed because maybe it doesn't live up to exactly what you want or what you need out of your gear. So that's why I say, price really, it's going to come in, because I know this stuff's not cheap, unfortunately, but it shouldn't be at the top of your list. Okay, focus on the fit and what the gear is meant to do, then figure out what you can afford and go from there. So really, that's what the rest of the show is going to be about, is just giving you all those tools, all the info you need to pick the right pair of waders and boots for you. Because again, the waders and boots that I love, stuff that I use all the time, may not necessarily be what's best for you. I mean, shoot, Alex, the other guy in the videos here of VFC with me, we fish the same waters together and the same areas at the same time, and we don't wear the same kinds of waders because we both like different things out of our waders, and we don't even wear the same boots either. So even within that, we fish similarly, we're on the same water, we have different tastes. So you'll even see that. So first things first, let's talk about fit, because this is really important, and I don't think a lot of folks understand just how important it is to dial in the fit of their waders. Because if your waders don't fit well, they're going to be a lot less comfortable and they're going to wear out way more quickly. Okay. Waders that are too tight means that it's going to be really tough to bend over and tie your boots up, to net a fish, to pick up the flies that you dropped on the ground. And then waders that are too loose, you're going to be kind of drowning in extra material all day long. You're going to feel like you're almost swimming in a trash bag kind of a thing. And then at either end of that spectrum, whether they're too tight or they're too loose, you're going to be putting more wear and tear on all of the seams and all the stitching in the waders in ways that they weren't designed to handle. And that is going to make them wear out that much more quickly. And I would say, in my experience, I think seams are probably the most common failure point in waders. So that's where you're most prone to get leaks, little pinhole holes. So it really is important to get a pair that fits well and that doesn't restrict your movement, but doesn't make you feel like you're wearing a spacesuit or anything like that. Ideally, you should be able to move around in these waders without feeling restricted. You want to be able to lift your legs high enough to climb over a log or scramble over a boulder or something. And then you want to be able to bend over and squat and sit down. You need to be able to make all of those normal movements in your waders if you possibly can. And just a little tangent here. This was probably 7 or 8 years ago now. I got a pair of waders from one of the companies that was making them at the time, and I was really excited because they were zip front waders, and I got them on sale, so they were like half off or something. Really good deal. I was so stoked, and I think I made it through like 2 trips before I took them off at the end of the day, and I had a huge wet spot right in the crotch where it was leaking. It looked like I just peed myself, which was really embarrassing to walk into the gas station after being on the water all day and, get something to eat and drink, and my pants are all wet right there. So I was trying to figure it out because, like I said, it was the second or third time I'd used them. And I'm looking at them, and sure enough, the seam had just kind of split open right there on the crotch. So I called the wader company, and they were great. They took them back. They sent me a new pair. Same thing happened. Sent them back. They sent me a new pair. Same thing happened on the third pair. And finally, the customer service guy's like, okay, hold on. What are your measurements? And I gave him the measurements. And he's like, yeah, so you ordered a size that's way too big. And every time that you are squatting or walking or just about anything, just the way that you're moving, you're putting so much extra stress on that seam right there that it's just popping it. So he got me into the right size, and then they ended up lasting not terribly longer because I did have a run-in with a barbed wire fence. But the crotch seam didn't split, so that was helpful. But that's just an illustration of how important it is to dial in fit, because that kind of stuff will happen. And then you think, oh, well, these waders are crap. They just, no one can build a wader that doesn't leak. Well, okay, that's true. Every wader is going to leak eventually, but usually a lot of the times the failure points are because the sizing's not quite right. So if you can try waders on before you buy them, that is what I recommend, because that's really going to help you dial that fit in. But if you can't, if you're just buying online, most of the big reputable wader makers, they have great sizing charts. And again, if you buy a pair that doesn't fit right, just like I illustrated with that story, they're going to do what they can to make it right. Now, you might not get 3 pairs out of them. I don't know why they were so nice to send me that many, but you will get taken care of. They will help you dial it in. And if you're not sure of the fit, always call them. I've never had a bad customer service experience with any of the big companies when I'm trying to buy waders from them. So they will get you into the right gear. So I definitely recommend that. Now, as far as boots go, when we talk about fit's really important mostly for comfort here, a little bit less so on the wear and tear. But from a comfort perspective, you just got to make sure that you've got the size dialed in. And then again, use the info on whatever company's website that you go to buy them, to size it if you're not buying the boots in person, can't try them on. Now, that's the stuff about fit, why fit matters so much. Now, there's also the other end of the spectrum here, which is what are those waders built to do? And this is I think even more than fit, this gets overlooked a lot because folks just think, well, waders are waders, right? I just go buy a pair. Not quite. Okay, because honestly, when you look at the fly fishing market, and we kind of got to get a little meta here. When you look at the fly fishing market, it's really dominated by two types of anglers. You've got the anglers who get out a few times a month, and then the anglers who get out a few times a week. Okay, the folks who are out there every day or, 200 plus days a year on the water, that's a very small minority of fly anglers. A lot of them, once or twice a month, maybe once or twice a week if they're really lucky. So there's really not a lot in that middle ground. So most waders are designed for one of those groups of people, the folks who are out there, occasionally, and the folks who are out there semi-regularly. That's where most of your participation comes. So that's where these companies are going to say, hey, we're going to build waders that meet the needs of the most people so we can sell to the most folks. Okay. Again, just to put that into numbers, a lot of waders and boots are made for anglers who are spending, 10 to 20 days a year on the water at most versus 30 to 40 or more days a year on the water. Okay. So that's really what you're looking at. And the angler that's on the water 10 to 20 days a year, they've got a vastly different set of needs from the angler who is a guide or who's the trout bum who just fishes all the time. And that's the only thing that they do. Those anglers who are out there 10 to 20 days a year, they don't need a bomb-proof, ultra-durable, super fancy nylon, composite, whatever, throw fancy science words around so it sounds expensive. They don't need that super bougie high-end wader. Their gear just isn't going to be in demanding conditions for huge lengths of time. They don't need that. Now, I'm not saying don't buy it. If that's what you want, go get it. But it's not really what you need to accomplish your fishing goals if you fall into that, 10 to 20 days a year on the water bucket. So there's that side of it, which is how much time are you actually spending on the water? That's going to factor into your wader decision. And then there's also what kind of fishing are you doing when you're out there on the water? Are you spending a lot of time, walking streamside? Are you hiking from spot to spot? Are you putting a lot of miles on your feet on the days that you're out there? Are you fishing mostly from a drift boat? Okay, so you're really not in the water a whole ton. Maybe you got to get out to net a fish, or maybe you get out to walk and wade a stretch that looks really good. Or are you in an area where, you're lucky that you can wet wade for, maybe 5-ish months out of the year, and you only really need waders from early fall through late spring just to get you through the coldest months of the year. Okay, all of those things need to factor into the decision that you make when you buy a pair of waders. Because if you're doing a lot of hiking, you're doing a lot of scrambling around on the banks, if you fish, maybe Pacific Northwest area, you're doing steelhead, that can be pretty demanding walking and wading up some of those rivers. It's just, it's really tough getting around sometimes. If you're doing a lot of that, you probably want a wader that's more abrasion resistant, something that's going to stand up better to busting through the brush, slipping and falling on a rock, stuff that's, just going to hold up to a bit more abuse. Something that has maybe a bit more athletic inspired fit to it. It's got a good range of motion in the legs. That's going to be pretty ideal for you because that fits what you're doing. If you're in a drift boat most of the time, you don't need that same level of performance. And there's nothing wrong with either approach. It's just being honest. Okay, how am I fishing most of the time? What waders are going to match that situation I find myself in? And the exact same thing goes for wading boots. I've got really delicate ankles, like they were made from glass. It's bad. I can turn them on just, the little cracks in the sidewalk in between the concrete. Yeah, I'll roll my ankle on that all the time. You lay a penny face down, I'll roll my ankle on that. It's so bad. So I need a lot of high ankle support in my wading boots. So I always opt for a stiffer, heavier boot because that's just what I need. Now, they're not the best for really long hikes when I'm wet wading because they're a little heavier. They're just not as comfortable to hike longer distances in, but it's what I need. So that's the boot that I use. On the other hand, Alex, He likes the really lightweight style boots because he tends to do a lot of walking, a lot of wading, a lot of hiking when he's fishing. So he wants stuff that's more nimble, a bit lighter, so he can just move around with a little bit less effort. Okay. And again, just really need to drive home. All of this is so much more important than just making a decision based on price. Okay. Doing that, honestly, it's the worst way to buy any piece of gear. I'm going to stake my claim on that. Not just fly fishing gear, but any gear in general. Because if you base it only on price, there's a chance you're going to end up with something you're not a huge fan of. Now, I'm not telling you don't have a budget, don't be responsible, this isn't financial advice, but don't pull from your Roth IRA or your kid's college fund or whatever it is to go buy your waders. I'm not saying that, but don't make that the biggest, most important decision in this process of buying gear, because again, you're probably going to end up with something that you're not a huge fan of. Okay. Now, let's just get into the price aspect of it too, because that kind of is the elephant in the room. I know waders are stupid right now. I know there's waders on the market for like $1,000. There might even be some for more than that now, which is crazy, right? I bought I think it was probably about 10 years ago now. I bought a top of the line pair of waders, and at the time they were like $600, which I'm not saying that $600 isn't a lot of money, but it's not $1,000. It was a lot easier to swallow 10 years ago than $1,000. And there's a lot to dissect here about price. So generally speaking, the more that you pay for your waders and boots, the better warranty support you're going to get behind the product, and you are going to get a product that, in my experience, has a better chance of lasting longer. I think is probably the best way to put it. You're going to get better warranty support with that product if you spend more on it, and you are going to have a better chance of that lasting longer than the cheaper stuff. Now, your satisfaction, your perception of quality, they absolutely are not guaranteed if you spend a lot of money. And I'm not telling you to spend a lot of money. That's not the only way to get good gear. Not saying that at all. Okay. But I have had the chance to use waders and boots from almost every major manufacturer out there. And I have had really good warranty experiences with all of them. So I do think there's something to be said for going with a reputable company who makes this stuff, and that's what they do, because I think you're going to get good support when those products fail, because eventually your boots are going to wear out, your waders are going to leak, and they're going to get to the point they can't be repaired. So the warranty support behind the stuff you're buying is really important, because it's going to decrease the amount of time that you don't have the gear that you want. And then if there is a problem, they're going to take care of you. They're going to fix it. And it's not just, they do that for everybody. It's not just the guy on the podcast that they do it for. No, they do that for everybody. Okay. That's how these companies stay in business, is taking care of their customers. Okay. So warranty and support are really, if those are really important to you, and they are to me, my advice is to buy waders and boots somewhere other than just a big box store or a random seller on Amazon. Okay. If that experience is worth it to you, you want good warranty support, and you want stuff that has a better chance of lasting for a while, don't just buy from, the local big box or on Amazon. Go to a company that actually builds waders, and that's what they do. That's my 2 cents on it. So I know price can be tough. And again, spending more does not guarantee you a better product. You are going to find stuff at every price point that you are going to be able to enjoy in some level. Okay. But when you spend more money, that's generally what you're going to get, are those two things that I outlined. It's not a guarantee. Okay? Nothing's a guarantee, but generally speaking, that's what's going to happen for you. The lower end stuff, I've had really bad experiences with. There was a point, I was still in high school, and I went and bought a pair of waders from the local big box store. Nothing fancy. I think they were like $80 at the time, and I was so excited. It was my first pair of waders, and I went out, I was wearing them, and like two hours in, they started leaking. I was so crestfallen. I think I cried. So I took it back the next day, and they exchanged them the questions asked, but the same thing happened again, where they leaked. It wasn't that quickly this time, but they did end up leaking pretty quickly, within a couple of weeks, I think. And what ended up happening, I found when I was walking, because I had the wrong size, another, speaking to fit again here, but I had the wrong size, so the seams on the insides of the legs are rubbing against each other and just wearing out. But the material was really thin, it wasn't high quality, and it just wore out very quickly. Okay, that's not everybody's experience with cheap waders. I understand that. There's some folks who have them and get great use out of them, but that was mine, and that's not the only cheap wader experience that I've had where something like that's happened. I usually haven't had things like that with the more expensive waders. Again, not saying you need to spend the money. I'm giving you my experience and my 2 cents. And just to help distill all this even further, so it's right there for you to look. You don't have to listen to me yammer again to help make up your decision. We actually have a complete buying guide for both waders and boots. It includes everything that we've talked about today, a few other details as well. I'll actually throw links for those down in the show notes, or there's going to be QR codes here on the screen if you're watching the video podcast, and you can just click on those and check out those buying guides as well. And then before we wrap up the open of the show, I'm going to go ahead and give out some recommendations on gear, because I told you guys I would at the beginning, and we do get asked this a lot. Folks want to know what we use and what we recommend. Based on everything we've talked about today, so buying for fit, buying for the designed use of the product, getting something with good warranty support, our stuff that we use personally is everything from Skwala. Okay, their boots, their waders are excellent, and we've been using them since well before I even joined the team at VFC. I've been using their stuff since before they even started, I think. They sent me some stuff to test out, I think, if I remember correctly. But we enjoy their gear so much that we actually went ahead and made it official. They're our official wading gear partner. So, supporting them supports us, all that fun stuff. But we really wanted to make the partnership official because we love their gear. We believe in it. It's stuff that's served us extremely well on the water. Now, the caveat is I understand Skwala is not cheap. And I'm not telling you guys that everybody needs it. Okay, but I'm telling you, if you do fishing similar to what I'm doing, you're out a couple days a week, you do a lot of hiking around on smaller streams, you do a good mix from fishing from a drift boat, you do a lot on some bigger rivers, and when you're out for a whole day at a time. It's really hard, in my opinion, to beat what we're getting from Skwala. So that's why we recommend their stuff. I love the RS waders and the RS boots. Alex loves the carbon setup, but you really just can't go wrong with what they offer. So if you do fishing similar to what you see Alex and I doing in these videos, definitely go give them a look. If they're in your budget, I would highly recommend checking them out. So that's the recommendation. And now in place, we usually do a Q&A section for the last half of the show. But what I wanted to do today was actually to dedicate the entire Q&A portion to questions specifically about waders, just so we can really, I want to leave no stone unturned with waders and boots so that you guys leave this show feeling like, okay, I know what I need to do and it's clear. And this big stumbling block is kind of removed, because I know this really does cause a lot of grief for folks when they're trying to buy waders and boots. And now that you understand how we think about gear here at VFC and why we recommend what we do, I think you're going to have the context that you need to understand why I'm answering these questions the way that I am. So one of the most common things we hear, and especially on videos, if we ever do a video about waders, we usually hear some variation of this comment. They'll say, waders are the biggest scam in fly fishing. Even the expensive ones are designed to wear out fast. You got to buy a new pair every 2 to 3 years. And they're usually very grumpy when they say it. You can tell from the grammar and the emojis. They're very grumpy. Now, I understand completely why folks feel this way. But you also do have to remember, what are you buying with a pair of waders? You're buying gear that is designed to be wet 100% of the time that it's used. And then it needs to withstand all of the stress and stretching of walking, of wading, maybe running if you got to chase after a big fish that takes you down into the rapids. Okay. All the abrasion of walking through brush and trees, falling on rocks as you're getting to the river. It's got to withstand all of that and then still be waterproof at the same time. Okay. You're asking quite a bit out of your gear. I don't think people generally realize and understand that. And waders are really interesting because they usually don't fail from one big impact. Usually, I mean, yes, a really sharp rock is going to rip them. That happened to Alex a couple months ago. He ripped a huge hole in his, just fell on a rock at the wrong angle, and that was all she wrote. A barbed wire fence is going to end them really quickly, but it's usually not just one rock or one tree branch that ends it. Usually that just builds up over time, and the fabric weakens, everything kind of starts to break down, and then the leaks start to happen just slowly. They eventually just wear out. And that's just the nature of waders, okay? They're going to leak eventually. That's going to happen. Now, I'm going to say that the biggest scam when it comes to waders, 100%, is the super cheap ones on Amazon or Temu. It seems like a huge gamble and way more of a scam to buy $80 waders from a company that doesn't live and breathe fishing and understand what the waders actually need to do than it is to spend your money with a company that actually wants to make a good product. And the last thing I'm going to say here on this too is waders are designed to last as long as possible. They're not designed to wear out in 2 or 3 years. Okay, that's just not true. They're not sitting there like, oh, okay, we're going to come out with this in 3 years and then we're going to make these last just under 3 years, so they have to buy this. That's not what wader companies are doing, I promise. I've had the opportunity to look behind the scenes at a lot of different wader companies. I know folks who work at almost every big wader company. That's not what they're doing. They want to make waders that are as good as possible. They want to make waders that don't suck. Okay. I know they're trying to build a product that's not just going to blow up in 2 or 3 years. But if you don't take care of your waders, if you don't clean them, okay, you're probably going to get a lot less use out of them. You probably are going to end up with waders that do wear out a lot more quickly than if you clean them, if you take care of them. I try to wash my waders twice a year. I'll throw them in the washing machine. Every brand's got a different set of instructions for how to wash your waders. You can just look that information up on their website. But it does help get the dirt and junk out of the fabric so it breathes better, so it lasts longer. And then it also cleans any mildew that might be forming on the inside of the seams. That's a huge reason that your seams start to fail is they mildew and they just kind of come apart. And a lot of that happens because your waders don't get dried properly. So always, always, always hang them up when you're done fishing. Don't leave them just crumpled up in the bed of your truck. Hang them up. I just hang mine in the garage. And certainly don't leave them in the truck bed in the full sunlight because you leave them there for a week at a time. That's really going to start to break down the fabric as well. I hang all mine in the garage. They don't stay crumpled in my truck anymore. They've lasted a lot longer for me than they have elsewise. And, one other thing, I'm going to go ahead and share this too. Just when it comes to, we're trying to, they're going to wear out in every 2 to 3 years. We actually went down the rabbit hole of trying to build our own waders here at VFC. We looked into what it would take. We did a lot of product research, did a lot of market research. We met with people who could help us build them. We got pretty far. I mean, we got within, we got almost to the prototyping stage. It's probably the best way to say it. And really what blew us away was this is way more work than we thought it would be. And to get the wader that we want at the price point we want going this way, we'd have to cut some corners. We didn't want to do that. And, could we get there someday? Yeah, maybe we might be able to. We might have the cash to do it at some point. But waders specifically are hard and they're really expensive to make. You have to order a lot of units of each size. So that's a big commitment up front in cash to get everything ordered. And then you got to turn around and sell them. And then you got to support them with your warranty. And then you've got to advertise, let folks know that you've actually got them for sale. There's a ton that goes into it. And then, it's just, there's a lot more that goes into this. than just getting some fabric, sewing it together, and selling it. Okay. So that's another reason, honestly, too, that we went with Skwala and just partnered with them, because what they're doing is better than anything we can do. So if you can't beat them, join them, right? No, and we love their stuff too. But it really is just something else to think about, when you're looking at that. They're not designed to just blow up that quickly, I promise. All right. Another question that we hear a lot of times comes to the wading boots. We'll hear it's either a question or a comment, but usually it's someone saying, do I really need wading boots? Can't I just use hiking boots and Crocs, and I can just wear wading pants? I don't need waders. We even had one guy leave a comment on a video we did about waders a month ago that said, you don't need waders. You can wet wade in 30-degree water and you'll be fine. Sir, with all due respect, you were not being truthful there. You could maybe stand in 30-degree water for about 5 minutes before everything goes numb and you're not going to be comfortable anymore. Honestly, this sentiment, though, of, well, you don't really need waders. You can fish all year round without them. I have no idea where that's coming from. I'm going to be completely honest, because I guess if you only ever fish during the summer and you only wet wade high country streams that don't get more than knee deep, I could see that being true. But that's just not how most anglers are, in my experience. We want to fish as much as we can. So that means we're fishing spring, summer, fall, winter. That means we're wading tailwaters where the water stays cold all year long, and spring creeks where the water stays cold all year long. That means fishing in the snow, in the rain, wading up to water that's up to your belly or even higher. Okay. And as someone who does that, as someone who fishes as much as he can and then wet wades as much as he can, because I love just being in the water, I can't imagine being sopping wet year round after fly fishing. Okay. There's some days when I get too wet when I'm wet wading because I slip and fall and I go for a little bit of a swim. And I feel like I need to dry out before I drive home, because I really don't like just sitting in all this wet, gross stuff on the drive home from the river. It really doesn't feel comfortable to feel like I just walked out of the shower when I'm on the water. So yes, you do not need expensive waders and boots to fly fish. That's 1,000% true. But you do need waders and boots if you want to fish as much as possible and you want to fish year round and you want to be able to access all these different areas to fish, because boots, especially, they are a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. They really, boots unlock more for you than you ever can really understand until you actually try wearing wading boots that are designed for it. I've got a good friend. He used to design footwear for a big name company. They sell boots. Every big box store, you'd know who they are. Hiking and hunting boots is what they do. Well, he left that company and he went to work for a fly fishing company that builds boots. And he's in charge of that. And he said he felt like he was brand new in product design. Like he was day one in his career when he went over to do that, because things are that different. Wading boots are designed to be wet all the time. And that means all the materials you got to use are pretty different than hiking boots. The construction process is different. And then on top of that, wading boots need to give you stability and traction in very uneven terrain. And then they've still got to be nimble enough to move across that terrain underwater. And they've got to provide grip in a completely wet environment. Hiking boots just don't do that. That's not what they are made to do. So you don't need wading boots, just wear your Crocs. Like, sure, you might be able to get away with that, but you go over to wading boots, it is night and day difference how much more stability you have, how much more confidence you have. You can access areas of the river that you didn't feel comfortable wading to before because you've got stability now. You can actually do it. Okay, so it really is, it's just one of those things. I don't understand where that sentiment comes from. Okay, it's not a scam. If you're going to fish year round, waders and boots are part of the kit you need to buy. The next question or complaint we'll see about waders is price. I know we touched on this earlier. But folks say waders are way too expensive. I'd never spend $500 for waders. We even got one YouTube comment a while ago that said we were out of touch and biased because we were recommending waders that were like $560. And again, I just want to be crystal friggin' clear on the price aspect here. I'm not here to tell you what to spend on waders. Okay. I'm not even here to tell you buy a certain pair of waders. Yes, Skwala is our wader partner. I think you should buy their stuff if it fits your needs and your budget. But that doesn't mean that I think they're the best fit for everybody. Skwala makes amazing gear. I love it, but they might not be the best fit for the kind of wading and fishing that you are doing. Hey, I do think a lot of our listeners and audience could benefit from looking at Skwala's gear, but I know their stuff isn't cheap and I know it's not for everybody. Okay. I've reviewed probably 24 pairs of waders, maybe more at this point, in my time reviewing fly fishing gear. And, you know, shoot, I just got a pair in for review from Sitka. These are, I think they're like $800 or $900 waders. I'm not even sure. They're supposed to be all sorts of fancy, really nice fly fishing waders, and they're awful. They are genuinely the worst waders that I have ever worn. It's not even close. Not worth anywhere near $800. I would actively advise folks to not buy those waders, just because the fit, the pocket design, the seam placement, all of those things just aren't that great. They really need to improve them. And I bring this up because I want it crystal clear that I'm not just sitting here shilling for expensive waders. If I was, I'd tell you, yeah, go buy the Sitka ones. They're $800. They're great. Go buy the Patagonia ones. They're expensive. They're great. Go buy the Sims G4Zs. Those are $1,000. I think they're most expensive. Go buy those. You're going to be in business. No. In my experience, okay, where I've had some years that I've spent 300 days a year on the water, back-to-back years I've done that. And then other years, like last year, where I barely broke 100 because we had our daughter and she was in the NICU and, you know, just life happened and I didn't fish very much last year. My experience with all of that has been that consistently that experience has been that cheap waders, anything under about $300 really just doesn't last that long for me. Okay. They're usually not made for the demands that I have from my waders. So I opt for the more expensive ones because they last longer and they are more comfortable for me and the fishing that I am doing. That might not be true for you, but it is for me. So the only thing I can speak to is my experience and what I think can help you guys. So that's why I bring this up. Okay. Skwala's RS waders, they're my favorite. Yes, they're $900 or whatever they are. Is that a ridiculous price? Yeah, for a lot of people it is. And $900 for me, I'm like, shoot, that's a lot of money. Do I really need those? But then I go think through everything that I do. I see that as worth it because I know that I'm getting at least 100 days of use out of those waders before I'm going to have any problems. And that comes out to like $9 a day for my waders every time that I go fishing. And then I know that if I have any problems, Skwala is going to make it right. I love the pocket setup. I love the hand warmer pockets. I love the zipper. I love everything about them. They are worth it to me. $9 a day for my waders when I go fishing. That is worth it to me. Not telling you that it needs to be worth it to you. I'm not telling you that you're not good enough if it's not worth it to you. I'm not saying anything like that. It's not a personal attack. Again, my experience, my 2 cents, what I think can help you guys. That's worth it to me. You've got to make that decision for yourself. But hopefully, now we're at the end of this part of the show anyways. You've got the info. You've got the gears turning in your head. And you can see now, okay, fit, what are they designed for? Find a price that works for my budget, boom, and I'll be good. And then if they didn't meet your expectations, maybe you need to increase the budget. Maybe you got the fit wrong. Okay, there's all sorts of things you can go back to, but hopefully this just gives you the groundwork. You see where I'm coming from, where the VFC team is coming from, and really helps you make the right decision when you're buying this gear, okay? Price does not always equal better. Okay. I can't say that enough. Again, just look at what I said about those Sitka waders, for example. But there is something to be said for paying up for nicer gear. And if you need the best level of performance, you're going to end up paying for that. That's not just in fly fishing, that's life in general. So that's something to get used to. But I'm sure there'll be comments about this, so definitely drop them. Let me know what you think about what I said. I know it was a long bit of the show to get through, but hopefully there was something in there that is helpful and that will help you make a decision you feel good about as you go to get your wading gear. Now, it is time to wrap this episode up like we do every single week with the Live Real Life moment. We like to end the show by sharing a story and a picture from folks out in the VFC audience who are living real life. We love to see the adventures y'all are up to, the fun time y'all are having. So if you've got a Live Real Life moment that you would like to share, please send those in to us. There's a link to do that down in the show notes or right here on the screen if you're watching the video podcast. And this week's Live Real Life moment comes to us from Michelle, who writes in and says, after 2 years of barely catching any fish here in Quebec, I spent the entire winter listening to your podcast. Last 3 trips, I've caught tons of wild brook trout in the backcountry. Even convinced my friend to start fly fishing. Thanks so much for the endless hours of info. Michelle, thank you. I love it. And congrats on getting the fish. I know that beginning grind can be a lot, but it feels awesome to pull it off at the end, doesn't it? That's such a rewarding feeling to get that and to feel the satisfaction of all that hard work paying off. So tip the hat to you. Congrats. Thanks for sharing that with us. And everybody else, thank you for being here. I appreciate y'all. Watching and listening to the show every week does more for us than you can know. And if you want to help us out even more, please tell everybody you know about VFC and Untangled. Share the show with them. We want to help everybody live real life. That's our goal. We want you to have a great time out on the water. So the more folks you share the show with, the more folks we can help live real life. And speaking of that, it's time to quit talking. Grab your waders and boots. Get ready. Go have some fun. And until next week, everybody, get out of the water, enjoy yourselves, and live real life.